Hey, what's going on, everyone? Check out what's coming up this week on Legacies.
It's our own Kief, because when I sneeze in this building, I sneeze Kief. It's self-retreat.
I spell it right now.
I'm on a big CBD hunt now. So
Now? Just now?
Well,
I feel like you've been on that for a while.
No. That was my one-to-one.
So I started smoking it, and I didn't want to pass it along. It was like,
Bogart. Look at that guy.
I was like, that dude's intense. He's intense. So big Dutch dude. Love him. Hey, welcome to Legacies, everyone. I'm your host, Tom Ritchie, joined by Wesley the Wizard Bowles. Wes, good morning, sir.
I think I'm having a better morning than you so far, apparently, but good morning.
This episode of Legacies brought to you by Tylenol Complete for all the entrepreneurs out there that have no choice but to be on when you need to be on Tylenol. I wonder if they'd pay us for that.
I mean, if you show up tomorrow and you're all good, then maybe. But
Fuck,
having a rough morning.
I just took some, so it's kicked in. The entire family, they're like, "Well, why can't you just postpone?" I'm sick. Okay, I'm sick. I do get sick. I always joke when the kids were young. I say, "I don't get sick. I'm immortal." Here I am. But you recall, before Christmas, I'm like, "Fuck, dude, it feels like I'm coming down with something." And I would fight it off, and I think that's what's gone on. Is I try to keep my immunity up as much as I can. I take, as you know, a million supplements, and I think I was fighting it off, and then I got a lot on the go outside of work and what we do with High Flyer and refreshing an apartment unit, all this stuff. There's just so much. I think it just caught up to me, and I just woke up yesterday morning. Actually, the day before, I was sore. And I'm like, oh man, I need to do more stuff. I need to work out harder or something. And yesterday I woke up and it said, "Not so fast, motherfucker." Not so fast. And I'm a baby when I get sick, but I just end up, well, I mean, I don't know. Like every fucking thing in my body hurts. Everything. Like everything. Just to touch my head hurts. I'll quit complaining.
You got a case of the COVID or what? What do you think it is?
Yeah, it makes you wonder. I don't know. Listen, COVID exists. I know COVID exists. I'm not going to get into the conspiracy and rabbit holes of how it came to be. I do believe it exists. And I'll tell you, when I did catch COVID, it was the worst fucking thing I've ever had in my life. Are you muted? You muted over there?
Sorry about that.
Hold on. Am I that sick? Hold on. What the fuck is going on here? Your lips are moving.
Thinking you're going deaf. No, it's like being hit by a fucking train. It feels like you've been hit by a bus when you get that really.
Oh, and yesterday I was just, I'm like I said, I'm a big baby. I'm like, guys, I'm going to be offline as much as can. So I apologize for being MIA. Chances are after we've wrapped today with our guests and everything, studio tear down, and I'll be back in bed. The worst part is you go from hot to cold. And I think I'd mentioned to you, I'm like, the fuck do I wear today? Like, I don't want to be sitting here sweating like the entire time. So anyways, I just took some Tylenol Complete. I don't take stuff very often, but I just took some. So hopefully it kicks in soonish.
Yeah.
Soonish? I don't know. Look at you over there, Mr. Smarty Pants, with your fucking glasses.
Hey, these were a gift.
I know they're a gift.
They do some blue light filtering, and they're
what all do they do? Those are the Meta glasses, Ray-Bans, yeah?
Yeah. I don't use the AI feature that much, but they do have AI built in. I really just got them because they're not that much more expensive than regular Ray-Bans, and they're transition lenses as well. So I'm always fumbling with sunglasses and stuff like that, and so these were a gift for Christmas, and I like them so far.
Now what can you do? Like I haven't. I think we jumped on a call on the weekend, and I'm like, "What the fuck are you doing wearing glasses?"
So,
but what do they do? What can you do?
You can ask Meta similar stuff. You can ask GPT, which for the most part works fairly well. It's definitely nowhere near GPT level of accuracy.
Like you have to have the subscription, or it's using the free version?
No. It's using the free version. No, it's not using GPT. It's using Meta's AI.
Oh, it's using Meta's AI. Okay.
Yeah. And I'm noticing that they're not, it's giving a lot of inaccurate answers for a lot of some of the basic stuff. But the thing
how does it answer you? Is there earpieces? What is there?
Yeah, it's conductive. So I can hear it. I think it's through it may be speakers, but it actually feels like it's bone conductive.
Okay.
So the vibrations from the are actually.
But you can't see anything in the lenses. Like it's not.
No. It's not like a heads-up display or anything like that. It's
what was
just
Google?
More so.
Google brought something.
Yeah, Google brought something like that out, and then it was
called?
Google Glass.
Google Glass. That never
Yeah,
took off, right?
No, never took off.
I mean, the concept for me, it would have been awesome. Like,
Yeah. I think I mean, there are cameras in these things, which is kind of crazy. And
don't wear those in the washroom.
yeah. But hey, no, the cool thing is that I can I've mapped the action button on my iPhone to click it once, and I can use GPT through the Bluetooth directly with the glasses rather than using Meta's AI. So I still have to click the button on the phone, cool. But at least it's actual GPT rather than Meta's AI. So, but yeah,
okay.
they're nice.
Well, I'll have to look into it a little more. I don't know if I need any more devices, but I do use. I saw that. Okay, so first of all, what the fuck is going on with Zuckerberg? What is going on with Meta? You got an update for our audience?
Zuckerberg is completing his based transition, as the kids are saying these days.
Based transition?
His based transition. So he's transitioning from that techie nerdy dude that he always was or whatever into this. Like, you should see him now with the clothes he's wearing. Super broed out, the long hair.
And I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, he seems, I don't know how much of it's just an image thing, but he seems to be now like, I think he's realizing, shit, Trump's in office. People clearly want, this Elon style freedom of speech platform and all this stuff, and we better get on board. Otherwise, because I think you know more than anyone, Facebook is fucking dying. I don't go on Facebook.
I use
shit
Marketplace
these days.
That's all I use it for.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. Yep.
So I think he's trying to get everyone on board with, we've got to change something fast. So it looks like they're completely doing away with all their fact checkers that they've had since Congress required them to start really deeply fact checking stuff. And I think now they're switching over to more of a community note style feature like what X has, and they have done some relaxing, or at least their terms and conditions and their community guidelines on Instagram seem to be relaxing a little bit. Okay. It specifically calls out now that for cannabis specifically, you should be able to post, your experiences with it, talking about products and stuff like that, but not saying, you still can't say anything about they're available here, buy them here, selling, or anything like that. Now, would I go out right now and start posting stuff instantly? Like, oh shit, it's a free world now. I can post about cannabis and THC all day long with all bud shots. I'd probably still take it easy for now. Some of these policy changes may currently only affect the United States and not Canada, so just be wary of that. I wouldn't go rushing out, but it's say what you want about the whole thing. I think for the cannabis industry, it's looking a little bit positive. I'll knock on wood for that, but
let's create a dummy account and see how long it takes to
that was what I was going to try and do next is make something and post what we know would have gotten taken down before, THC symbols and all that stuff.
And this is across Meta platforms, so Facebook.
Yeah, this would be Facebook. Yeah, Facebook and Instagram and Threads if you're a Threads user.
I don't use Threads.
I don't either. The fact that you've got to have an Instagram account to get into it, and I don't know.
I don't even understand it.
It's a Twitter or a Blue Sky.
I've got you.
Yeah.
Like, do we need to use it? What is it for? I don't get what it's for.
I don't see the user base there for it.
Well, let's set up a dummy account and start posting nug shots, and I mean, we can recycle some of what we've done with the brand partners we've worked with previously. And Meta just tagged it, and you got to remove this.
Yeah, we could post stuff we posted in the past that got us taken down just to see what would happen. But
maybe it's because I keep using the hashtag fuck Meta that he finally changed his mind.
It would be interesting actually to check where I haven't checked that, because our Legacies account has been 4 green checks across the board since we started. We kept it clean since the beginning. That was the plan. Mm-hmm. Now our High Flyer account, on the other hand, used to have checks X's on there, right, for a couple of things. So I'd be interested to go in there now and see if it's retroactive and anything from the past has been removed, or if it's only for content moving forward. But I'll go through there and check that later. But that's interesting.
I did see something. So yesterday, laying on the couch, sick as fuck. And I don't know how I came across it. I probably because I've watched a bunch of Jordan Peterson stuff. Hate me if you want. I don't care. I love the guy. I really don't care anymore. Anyway, so I watched the Polyev and Peterson interview, and I do suggest that I'm doing my research. I'm definitely leaning a certain way. This was not the reason or the factor of that. I think where I've had issues is the liberals, as much as some are still very supportive of the liberals. They've had quite some time to deal with Trudeau. They've had years to deal with Trudeau and his, announcement that he's going to step down and whatever's going to, and this interview was shot obviously before the most recent events of what's going on. For me, I just look at the entire Liberal Party is culpable in this case. They have had the chance. Now they're finally, non-confidence. You've had fucking plenty of opportunity to figure this out. So one of the things that I picked up out of this, I didn't know this, I'm hoping you can confirm. So apparently, and this is way off this, but this was something as, Poilievre was talking about energy and boosting and bolstering our energy, through tons of different means. But he's talking about data centers and the power, right? And apparently, I don't know how much power it takes, but a Google search is like a fraction of what a GPT search is. Like, so when you query
100%.
something in GPT, I had no idea. Like, you would think that with all the advancements in technology, they'd be able to figure this out. They should have thought of this ahead of time. Like, I don't get it.
It's a necessary evil. So when you do a Google search, Google has pre-indexed results, right? So it's not indexed everything on the web, but it has a predetermined list of stuff that's all been indexed and relevant to Google. So it's really just matching keywords and all that. I mean, I'm overgeneralizing here, so any technical people listening, don't shoot me, but it's really just a searching a database of keywords and presenting you with the options, right?
Right.
GPT is very different, where it has to use it's not just keyword searching, right? There's multiple layers to things. It's all drawing power as it's going through there. There's a lot more to it than on the user interface side. Yeah, it just looks like you're typing in a query just like Google, but on the back end, that's very,
so it's
very
using
different.
a lot more computing power.
A lot more compute power.
Which requires servers, which requires energy, but there was some key things, I highly suggest, as, the Liberals try and figure out who their next party leader is, do your research. This is the time that we all need to be involved in understanding our political future, I guess. Like, I've been horrible with it over the past, right? Depending on who it is. I'm not saying, I think those that have watched, they all understand, this. I think all politicians they're liars. They really are. Yeah. But I need to be able to align with a certain platform. And some of what Poilievre is saying, I mean, he's got his work cut out for him. Like, and a lot of it is just statistics, right? When you look at just facts, statistics, right? So what are we? A population of 41 million. We've, over the last, I think it was last year alone, it was 1.2 million in immigration that had come into the country. That's staggering. But also, our current Liberal government has turned down energy export to Japan and Turkey and all these other opportunities that we would have why? Like, why? But we sell to the US at a fraction of the market rate when we could be exporting. I just, there's so many things that you see opportunity. Here's one that would blow your mind. You probably already know this. In the last 9.5 years, they have added 40% more bodies to work for the Canadian government than historically ever.
That's a big jump.
Now, here's where it gets crazy. We spend $21 billion on contractors. So people that don't even work for the government at $600 an hour, right? Consultants, $21 billion. So we have 40% more employees at the government, and we're paying $21 billion for consultants. Come on.
That's pretty crazy, especially considering it still takes 2 hours to get a hold of anyone at the CRA as well.
Oh, yeah, your call is somewhat important to us. I just don't get it. It's time for change as far as I'm concerned. I'm not saying I'm 100% there, but I'm about 98% there. That'll be Poilievre. And I think the biggest concern for me is who is the leader that's going to be able to deal with a Trump? That's the biggest one for me, right? I'm not worried about this 25% tariff bullshit. I don't think it's going to happen. But at the end of the day, I think it takes someone with sense to understand that Trump is a businessman. At the end of the day, he doesn't need to like you and you don't need to like him, but he is a businessman and money means everything to him. So if you come in with a clear mind to say, listen, let's just figure out a mutual way of doing business together that benefits both your economy and ours, that's what should be happening. But instead, you've got Trudeau sounding off about Trump. You've got, which I used to be very much a Green supporter, But you've got May calling him a buffoon, like in a press conference, and like, this is not how you deal with. First of all, Green Party's not getting in. We already know this, but you don't call Trump a buffoon. That's how you just piss him off. And he's the type that would go, yeah, fuck you, Canada. Like, right? And then you've got what's going on? Greenland, Panama Canal. I don't get it. Like, just put a fucking leader in place. You know, do we force an election? Right? I don't know. Can you force an election? I don't even know.
I am the wrong person to talk to.
Well, the way it was put during this interview was like, do you force an election even though they haven't got all their ducks in a row? Poilievre's response to that was, you've had years to get your shit together, like years to get it together. And now at the most important time in the future of Canada, we should just wait and hold and stand by while you figure out who you need to put in as a party leader so that we can then move to an election. Like this just go. Just get it done. I don't know. Whatever. I don't get it, man. I don't get it. Politics drives me insane to begin with. The government is supposed to be there to help and support you, and it's been clear and evident that the vast majority of countries, they're just not there. They're not held accountable. They overspend. You know, we go from a $40 billion cap on budgets and deficits to what was the one announced from 23?
Was it 61?
61 billion. And again, you know, 21 billion getting spent on fucking consultants. Come on. I don't know. Anyways, I'm on a big CBD hunt now. So
just now?
Well,
I feel like you've been on that for a while.
No. That was my one-to-ones, right? So something dawned on me, and I don't know why I was being so stupid. So I do take CBD isolate and oils, but I don't take it at the level like I've struggled with joint pain, and I've been hard on my body over the years, very hard. So I've got joint pain, and I'm like, hold on a second. Why am I being so dumb? Like, CBD in the endocannabinoid system is designed in such a way that cannabidiol would affect inflammation. It's got anti-inflammatory properties, you know. So I'm like, okay, I got to start taking CBD. Now, what is not super clear is how high of a dosage you need to have proper effects of the CBD, right, in your body. So from what I can tell, and maybe we get Ira or another doctor on, maybe Mike Hart, or just someone that's scientifically backed and maybe had a PhD in this, and I don't know, someone. But what I can tell is, like, in order for it to have a true effect on anti-inflammatory properties, it needs to be like 200 milligrams a day. That's quite a bit compared to if you're popping gummies that have.
Yeah. No, I remember, I feel like it was Stuart from Stuart Farms who mentioned that 250 number to us, 200, 250. It might be wrong, but okay. Yeah, I remember hearing that and being like, oh shit, that's a lot more than I would have expected.
I'm on the hunt now. So, you know, because it can get expensive depending on how you look at it. So I've been searching. So audience, if you're using CBD to treat anti or inflammatory issues or anything else for your health, let us know what you're using. I'm looking for best bang for the buck, right? How much CBD can I get for, and all things being equal, let's look at the quality of the CBD in the product, right? What are the carrier oils, or is it an isolate in a cap format or gel cap or whatever? From what I can tell, the highest potencies so far are Exca has an Exca, it's called 4000, CBD 4000. So they have one, which is decently priced. And then Glacial Gold, so Next Leaf Solutions, that's Emma. And you remember Paul Peterson. He was the original founder. They have, so under Glacial Gold, they have some, I forget what they called their product, but it's 200 milligrams per milliliter. So, and that's in an oil format. So if you use it, if you know of a high potency, let me know. I should reach out to Tyler Mosher as well. He would know. He's behind Kinloch.
Well, I just went to have a quick browse in the OCS while you were talking about that, just to see, and the OCS is down right now. It looks like
get out of town.
It looks like maintenance and updates, but strange time to do updates middle of the day on a Tuesday. But
yeah, some companies just throw up. We're down for updates.
Yeah.
But, maybe not an update.
I do have CBD. Speaking of CBD pills, maybe I won't mention the brand because I actually haven't tried them yet because I don't want to. But I'll send you the link to these ones after.
What is it? Don't tell me the brand, but what is it? CBD what?
CBD. There's 50 soft gels in here. Just soft gel capsules.
And how much CBD are you getting per capsule? Does it say?
50 milligrams per unit.
Okay. All right.
And
So
there's
you'd be
10,
looking at-
and there's 10 in there. So, I mean, you're going through a couple bottles of these, 2 bottles of these a week, maybe. But
Well, I did see a massive difference in pricing. So take, for instance, like Glacial Gold. I think you get 5,000 plus, maybe closer to 6,000 in a 30 mil. And it's priced around 50 to 60, I think. And then they have a half, which is their max strength, it's 100. And I think that's priced around 28, somewhere in there. So there is, dollar cost averaging, obviously it works out. But what I did see was, I won't mention the brand, they have the same as what Next Leaf would have in their 100, their max 100. And it was like double the price for the same, because I just look at how much CBD is in this bottle, period, compared to what is the price, right? Similar to how I've shopped THC previously, right? So for me, I looked at like, how much CBD am I getting in an entire bottle, or what does it work out per milligram of CBD? And there is a drastic difference in the market. Drastic.
I think, I think the best, again, I have not done a ton of looked at pricing and stuff on CBD stuff. I do remember some of the best I've seen. If you're going the gummy route, I know Mosher does those huge packs of CBD gummies. It's like 30 or 50 CBD gummies in there. I think it's like 20 mils per piece, but if you're going that route. But yeah, I think you're definitely, the most cost effective is going to be the capsules or the oil.
Well, and for me, I wouldn't want to do the gummies, because typically, you're introducing sugar, and, you've got glycerins and all that kind of stuff. So if you're taking, I would say 100 to 200 milligrams in a day, you'd probably want that in an oil or capsule form, I would think.
It looks like Naturally Nutra's got
Vedran.
100 milligram CBD capsules.
The isolate, right? Yeah. I do have some of those. I've started them. Now, what I will tell you is, do not take 200 milligrams before bed.
Really?
I could have been because I was getting sick too, but from what now, Maris Cott, she understands this world a lot as well. She said something about one of her friends. She had gotten onto CBD. They took it before bed. She was up all night. Again, I don't know if it was because I was coming down with something. I had night chills and sweats and all this going on, but I did not sleep well. And I took 400 milligrams in the one day. It might be a little much, but I also took 200 right before bed, and that probably did not help. But again, more research. We need to understand this world a little bit more. When we look at, the world of health and wellness and how that fits in, I want to reach out and speak with Jay over at Sports Cannabis, because a lot of these athletes, very similar, right? They've been hard on their bodies throughout life. They're using cannabis as an alternate means to opioids, to deal with pains and you name it. So I think more research. We need to get some guests on. We start wading into that world a little bit and understanding it more, because there's so much more than THC, right? Yeah. And that's, coming back to the whole election thing, I think that's one of the things. We are so focused and worried about how the next incoming party will affect our industry that we need to look beyond that. There's so much more than what's going on in the cannabis industry. That, to me, it's not high on their priority list, right? Let's just face it. Now, if we can see the needle move a bit, great. But there is so much more, right? My daughter's generation talking that it's going to take them, 25 years to save for a down payment on a house. Forget ever paying a mortgage off, right? Like, it's, the cost of living. My wife sent me this video of this dude. He lives in some area of New York, and it's the most yuppie neighborhood. He's from Canada. He's a Canadian. Lives in this yuppie neighborhood in New York, and he's never shocked by pricing anywhere in the world. He travels a lot. He came back to Newmarket for Christmas, and he's like, guys, Canadians, I'm telling you, what the fuck is actually going on? This is the highest cost I've ever seen for grocery and food items, let alone anything else. He goes, I don't get shocked. I was shocked. I was blown away by, and then you look at dollar conversion and what's going on. We need to be focused far more, especially our industry, with power within our industry beyond cannabis and how it's going to affect cannabis. Because, man, if we don't start taking, I'm all for green futures, sure. But in the interim, we've got an abundance of energy supply that we can be exporting and charging proper rates for. To get our economy back on track. It used to be the US, individuals, VCs, et cetera, would invest into Canada. Not anymore. They just don't touch it. They don't. We are a foreign land to them where it just doesn't make sense to invest. So, anyways, pay attention. We need to know what's going on. We'll figure it out. Anyways, got a great episode today. You remember when we met? So we've got Pure Sunfarms on. We've got Orville and Carolyn. Carolyn's the Canna Czar. Orville's the president. But you remember when we met with them? I was like, that dude's intense. He's intense. So, big Dutch dude. Love him. But he's got roots in legacy. He's, Pure Sunfarms they're paying homage to the legacy market, or the legacy days, I would say. But yeah, we're going to find out, cause they've just launched the Canna Czar under Soar. And to me, that's just paying respect to the legacy market potentially. This is a loss leader. There's no way those handmade Canna Czars, you got one, right?
Yep.
There's no way they're making money on those.
No, it's a premium position product. That's for sure.
Dude, that
right down
is
from the packaging
ballsy.
to, yeah.
And you don't see typically your larger scale producers like a Pure Sun. I've been to the facility, if you recall, back in the days from Ample. And when I walked in, I'm like, holy shit, this place is huge. The biggest greenhouse I've ever seen. So be interesting to understand their journey. And because Orville is now president, I think he was doing international business development and then came back into the role of president. So we'll figure all of that out. But super excited to understand how big, air quote, corporate, they're all corporate, guys. We say this, fuck corporate cannabis all the time. If you're registered, chances are you're corporate, right? Unless you're black market. Anyways, they do have some great products, and I understand that scale is tough, but man, I don't know. We'll see. Anyways, we'll get Orville and Carolyn on right after this. All right, welcome back, everyone. We're joined by Orville Bovenschen of Pure Sunfarms and Carolyn Cudmore, the Canna Czar. I want a cool title like the Canna Czar. Orville, how'd you make that happen? You've got president. President's been used, man. It's been used. Thanks for joining Legacies, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Of course.
We'll work on a name for you, Tom. We'll
okay. Yeah, I got it. Well, Wes has the wizard. We call Wes the wizard. And I don't have anything. I've got nothing.
Nobody beats him.
Anyway. Listen, Pure Sunfarms, very familiar with. I think the entire cannabis industry is as well. Been a lot of success there. A lot of rocky roads too. I mean, over the last 4, 5, 6 years, I've been to the facility back in my days of Ample, and I just remember I was like awestruck how large the facility is. I think, Orville, correct me if I'm wrong, but largest under glass facility. Is that correct in Canada?
Probably. It's 1 million square feet, and then we have an additional 1 million square feet. So totally under glass is 2 million square feet. So it's very, very large.
Very large. Wow. It's I think because I come from MMAR days, and when I looked at it, I'm like, oh my God, if there was ever a pest, your IPM has to be on point, obviously. But anyways.
It keeps me up at night. That's diseases.
One of the only things, right, that keep you up at night, I'm sure, running a large, successful company is Pure Sunfarms.
Well, there's always the risk that you're going to have a disease that's going to completely wipe out your crop, and those chances are actually very, very high. You see it in tomatoes, you see it in peppers. So we're always concerned about that. We're very careful who comes into the building, who's allowed into the flower rooms. We're very, very mindful of our genetics. It's a really, really big risk.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we're going to get to current day and how Pure Sunfarms is paying homage to the legacy market. But I do want to understand your backgrounds a little bit more, and our audience obviously would like to understand that. You're not Dutch. You're from Holland at all, right, Orville?
The most Dutch person ever.
To this day, I've seen now that I have an accent. In my world, there's no accent, but everybody else thinks there is. So I guess I have an accent. I am from the Netherlands, my background.
Yeah. From the Netherlands, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Holland and Netherlands is the same thing.
Yeah.
I started using cannabis when I was 14 years old. That was 30 years ago. Now, I wouldn't recommend doing the same. Absolutely not. So I had a little bit of a head start. And obviously in the Netherlands, cannabis was decriminalized in 1974 or 1972. Wow. So consumption has always been legal, decriminalized but not really prosecuted. Purchasing of cannabis has always been legal, except the cultivation, the production of cannabis has always been illegal. So we call it the backdoor policy, but we had a massive head start in the Netherlands compared to other countries.
Yeah.
No longer Canada has taken over the position that the Netherlands once had. So yeah, had a head start, and that's my background.
Yeah, it's wild because we, at least for myself growing up, it was any of my friends that were Dutch from Holland and the Netherlands, cannabis was it was part of life. It wasn't, like we saw in Canada with the crackdowns and, so much incarceration, way too much incarceration over it. But it was part of life. It wasn't, something that was frowned upon necessarily. And the vast majority, I think, probably experienced it quite early in life. Was that due, do you think, just because it decriminalized, or is it just the culture and it's accepting of cannabis?
I think it's a combination of factors. I think it's accepting of cannabis. It's been part of our history for a long time, since the 70s. Also, it's a very liberal society. The Netherlands is a very liberal society. So it has a very open mind towards the consumption of cannabis. We never considered cannabis to be, like we call the hard drugs, the same as cocaine or heroin. It's very different for the Dutch, and they always perceived it different, and it's been treated very differently as well. So there's not the stigma that we had in other countries and that you still have in certain countries. The stigma was never there in the Netherlands. No one is gonna flinch because you're smoking a joint. It's very different. The
Yeah.
coffee shop,
Normalized, right?
and the coffee shops have been around since the 70s, right? To actually consume.
Yeah.
So it's been a very different world to grow up in. It was so normal.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think we'll ever see the grand rollout of cannabis cafes in Canada?
I think ultimately it's going to happen because you need to provide a place for safe consumption. That's how I truly feel. And there's been talks about that before. It always is a bit complicated because you're not allowed to smoke indoors. It's the same in the Netherlands. In the coffee shop, at the exceptions, you can still smoke indoors. But the funny thing is they can no longer sell tobacco in the coffee shop. So normally you would go to the counter and get a cigarette because we roll spliffs. We use tobacco in the cannabis there. But you have to buy your own cigarettes, but you can smoke in the coffee shop itself.
Interesting. Okay.
Then if you do that, you don't have to have people smoking cannabis on the street. So you take them off the street, and the people that are bothered by it are no longer bothered by it because people can smoke inside. So
Right.
there's a rationale behind it that actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. I think Canada could take a page out of the Netherlands book for sure when it comes to that. Carolyn, I had asked Wes, I'm like, is Carolyn on LinkedIn? And he's like, I can't find her anywhere on the net. And I'm like,
I did a deep search. I couldn't find much.
yeah. And I'm like, okay, we've got ourselves a legacy operator here. Yeah. So, Carolyn, I do want to understand your involvement and work with Pure Sunfarms, obviously, but maybe just lay out your history, first involvement, how the Canna Czar came to be, and that cool title.
Okay, that's a lot in one question, but I'll start somewhere. How about that? I'm actually from the East Coast. I came to Vancouver to make video games in the early 2000, 1999
Wow.
to be
Okay.
specific.
Yeah.
So I worked at Electronic Arts for a number of years and burnt out, as you do.
Okay. Yeah.
Then I actually had a catering company doing catering for a bunch of the graphic houses around town and all my old video game friends. So I did that for years. And I actually thought that my entrance into cannabis was going to be probably through edibles.
Okay.
Because that's what I played with the earliest was,
Right.
you have all this shake. What are you going to do? So I'm a baker. I'm a cook. I love being in the kitchen. And really, my love of making like a perfect recipe is what kind of started the Canna Czar.
Okay.
Is when I decided to get into the cannabis industry, it was just before legalization. You could smell it, right? It was right around the corner, and Vancouver was this mecca. There were at the high point 180 different dispensaries open here.
Wow.
So it was a crazy place to be, really exciting. Anything from like 2000 onward, where all the kind of advocacy started. I really do think Vancouver did a really standout job of kind of pushing things, like even just between the city of Vancouver allowing you to have a dispensary and a business
Yeah.
license.
Yeah.
Like that was pretty cool. So I took a job. The first cannabis job I took was with a dispensary in town, and I became the purchasing manager. So opened one. I think we had 5 stores in total. Opened one under the kind of the business plan in Vancouver. And it just gave you an idea of what it could be. And these are beautiful stores, like we had a vending machine. It was crazy times. It was also when people were just bringing in products that they were making. And, it was every other day. How many hashes can you smoke in a day? It's
Yeah.
7. It is 7. Just if
Yeah,
you're looking for the
you,
number.
you have the number. Okay.
Yeah. So having access to all that stuff and me loving to cook, and that's where I just started making some crazy twax joints.
Okay.
And I went down to Oaksterdam to study their horticulture course down there.
Okay.
And so hanging out with those guys, you get pretty inspired too. And it's twaxing. It's the art of adding a concentrate to your flour. And being a maker and someone that likes to do things with their hands, like when I roll a joint, there's utilitarian joints where I just need, okay, let me just roll a whole bunch of joints here. Or
Hmm.
there's the special ones, like who didn't start rolling across, like way back in the day.
Right. Right. Right.
And so I always enjoyed that kind of artistry of it. And then adding in all these ingredients, and people are bringing me, like I said, the hashes and the shatters and distillate and like all these crazy things. It's like, well, what can I do with these? And how can I make these into a perfect blunt?
Right. Right.
And
Okay.
that's after about 6 months of really hard research. We narrowed it down to this kind of recipe that we have for the Czar, and the technique as well, because it's
Okay.
not just stuffing it all in. And um, there's a few people that are like, well, if you twax, you don't want to put it on the outside. It all wants to be on the inside. Like, what if it's a waste? This, that. So I've
Right.
gone through all those discussions and all those
Trials and errors. Yeah.
trials, yeah, and found the recipe. And it just so
Wow.
happens to be this ratio of flour. This Czar is our solvent version, so it has a shatter snake that we hand roll and put up the middle. We hand coat it in just the right amount of distillate, because I know that people are like, okay, smoking distillate is not normally what you do,
Hmm.
but it's not what you do if you put too much.
Right. Right.
If you
Okay.
put just the right amount, and then we coat it in this keef coating, and it's a crust, and then it cures for days. And it just
Wow.
makes a shell that's slow burning. And I hope you got to sample yours. We probably should.
Wes has had a chance. Yeah, I have not had a chance yet. But you're talking about rolling joints, and I like Orville. Help me, man.
No,
I'm
don't ask him to roll a joint.
well, but I can't. What am I? 33 years into rolling joints, right? I still can't roll a joint to save my life. I mean, it looks like a pregnant joint. You typically it burns great, but Orville, you were sharing a story when we had met. I think previously, before Christmas about. I don't remember, and we're not going to call them out because I don't want to get anyone in trouble. But you had someone on site, and you're like, "Yeah, I'm gonna roll a joint first. Give me some time." You can do an inside out joint, which is very interesting.
Yeah, I only do inside out joints. I don't like smoking paper, so I try to reduce as much paper as I can. So roll them inside out, and you burn off or you cut off the additional paper. It's the only way it's the way I was taught in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
That's how they roll the joints. I can do it while dancing. I can do it while running. I can do it while walking. I can do it, although not recommend while driving a car.
Yeah.
The only thing that I never really mastered was doing one hand. The one hand roll is it's complicated. But as a teenager, we had whole rolling joints competition. Who could roll the best joint?
Jeez.
And it would go around, and we would grade each other's joints for making sure that the filter is completely clean. There's no tobacco or cannabis on the filter. Yeah, I can really roll a joint. And it's part of our interview process as well. If you want to come work up here at Sunfarms
Wow.
and,
Oh,
and
man.
the interviews with me, you have to be able to roll a joint.
Oh, gee.
Chris-
I'm never working at Pure Sunfarms. I've just
That's
got to
the
the point
key.
where I can roll a filter into the joint at the same time. But I never used filters when I was younger. It was, and Carolyn, you're laughing because right? These days would be like, fuck, my joint's halfway. It's garbage now because I didn't have a filter in it of some sort. But in those days, we'd tear off the tops of the cigarette packs and, roll up a piece of cardboard, and that would go in. But yeah, I guess I
Well, there's
just never
different
going to make
styles,
it.
right? We also did, if you take a cigarette, we would cut off the top of a cigarette and use that as a filter.
Oh,
And
okay.
put it in the end. We call that the Moroccan version,
Yeah.
because that's how they used to smoke the hash as well. So there's all kinds of filters that we use. We use a double barrel, so you basically fold the filter in two. Now, obviously, the airflow is going to be completely different. So there's so many things that we did with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
It is an
road,
art, right?
it's
Like
an
it
art.
really
It is
is.
an art, and I'm going to tell you why I'm getting into this already. Is I want to paint the picture of like Pure Sunfarms. You know, throughout the Canadian cannabis industry, there's a lot of hate, right? When it comes to the larger, so typically it's the craft growers, the craft consumers. They love living soil, organic, etc. I get it. I totally get that. The hate I don't necessarily see as a reason for, you know, just because it's a large cannabis company that you should be offended by that. There is product for everyone, but I wanted to paint the picture that you're you're not coming from a white collar background necessarily, that all of a sudden you're, you know, I'm going to work and be the president at Pure Sunfarms, a large cannabis corporate company. I, I've started when I was 13 in the Netherlands, of all places, where it was accepted. You can roll a joint. I mean, and I don't think you're joking when it comes to, you want to interview here, you need to roll a joint, right? So I'm trying to paint this picture that Pure Sunfarms is just a little bit different when it comes to this, because you embrace that legacy, which, Carolyn, why the Canna Czar under Soar is now launching. I'm going to come back to that now. So you did all the trial error. This works. I would like for you to clarify twax. Okay, what is twax?
Well, it used to just be to wax, to put wax, to add a
Okay.
concentrate. So
Yep.
that's I'm gonna twax my joint. We didn't have the term infused. Like if
Mm.
I said I'm gonna infuse my joint, people would have like
Yeah, I
kicked me
never
out of the
use that.
room and said,
Yeah.
"Who are you?
Yeah.
Get out of here."
So
This is
technically,
people
back in
work.
those days when we were, you know, putting some hash in our joints that's infused, but we
Yes.
never call. You're right. We never called that infused. We
No,
just,
that's a new word. I don't love it,
yeah, I got an infused joint here. I think my friends will look at me like, "What the fuck did you
but it's
infuse it
different.
with?"
I mean, an infused joint is just it could be homogenized flour with whatever they decide to stir into it
Hmm.
and just put on a bump box.
Right.
Right? There's no hand anything to it.
Hmm.
It's very cold. And when you just think of the Canazar, I think of that as hot, and I think of as a pre-roll as
Right.
cold, like as
Right.
an
Okay.
infused pre-roll.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So
it's
you nail the recipe. Obviously, this is pre-legalization. You know, you were buying at a dispensary. So how did that shift happen? Did you start, because these things are intense. They take some time to make, and they still do to this day, and we'll get to that. But like, were you mass producing them? Like, do you not get carpal tunnel? Like, were you just were they going to dispensaries as well? Like, I don't understand. I understand the draw and why people would want it, but I don't understand the economic sense of it. Is what I'm trying to look at.
right. Yes, I get that. It was when I decided, okay, when I was at the dispensary, like the first 20 calls in the morning were, do you have pre-rolls? Do you have pre-rolls? And I understood that people were looking for these were a lot of medicinal people as
Okay.
well,
Yeah.
medicinal clients. And they can't roll, or they need to know what they're smoking. They can't just have a
Right. Right.
salad. And so I started to understand, like, and for my own use as well, like I'm a sativa smoker. Like
Hmm.
I'm sativa all day, every day, and it just keeps me focused, it keeps me straight. And I just think that once people figure out what it is that they need from the plant, then we got to give it to them. We got to
Right.
help them get it.
Yeah.
So I started the pre-roll factory. So back in the day, we
Oh.
started just doing pre-rolls
Okay.
online with
Yep.
some moms, as we used to call them. And on the website, I offered this kind of twaxing service. So I had a
Okay.
list of all of our ingredients. I'm like, hey, you want to make your own blend? Tell me what you want in it. And so
Wow.
we had some people make some really crazy, crazy choices. We're like,
Yes.
they're not going to be able to smoke this. Like, I'll
Yeah.
do it, but I don't want to do it, and I don't think they're going to have a great experience. So just going through that and being like, I think I know what you want, and just really perfecting this recipe of the Canazar,
Hmm.
and knowing that I don't think that anyone who doesn't know the ingredients could have done better. They couldn't have
Right.
curated a better smoke, and
Okay.
just yeah. Even with our R&D here, um, when we came here to just start getting it into production, because that's a whole other thing, is hand rolling it with three of my rollers
Yeah.
and myself,
Hmm.
and trying to bring it over to like the scale that we're launching at. It's a whole different thing. They still take 10 minutes by hand.
Yeah.
Like,
Wow.
there's nothing in a machine that's 100% from start to finish. It
Yeah. Yeah.
is.
Well, we'll touch on that because I want to understand the sense that it takes to go. Listen, yeah, we support legacy because Pure Sunfarms. I mean, Orville, you guys have done really well with some legacy strains, right? Or cultivars, depending our audience. Don't kill me. I call it a strain sometimes and a cultivar, and other times. If we get Ryan Lee on, he'll call it something completely different. Trust me. But Pure Sunfarms has been very dedicated over the years to paying homage to that legacy market. And by the way, Carolyn, I had no idea. So even though I had MMAR, I was dropping packs. Everyone knows this. I didn't go into a dispensary like a gray market. It was black market. Come on. But in Vancouver, a little different, right? Even when I was operating, people were like, oh, it's a gray area. I'm like, it's not a fucking gray area. It is a black market, pure and simple. That's the way it is. I didn't realize pre-rolls were in such demand even in the legacy days. I had no idea, but obviously they were.
Well, and back in the day, in California, it was 20% of the sales were pre-rolls.
Wow.
Like, this
Wow.
was,
I mean, it makes sense. I'm
just
just
saw it
lazy.
coming.
I'm just lazy. Some nights I'm like, yeah, what do I got for pre-rolls? But, Orville, I mean, Pink Kush, obviously, Pink Kush is a legacy strain, but specifically Pure Sunfarms and Pink Kush has done very well. Typically, we see companies, regardless of size, they're rotating their strains or cultivars or available products every 6 months to 12 months. Pink Kush is going on a ride. Like, how long now?
It was batch 1 that we grew, so that was back in 2017. And it's roughly 30% of our sales. I think
Wow.
it is the only strain that has been able to do that. It's absolutely a legacy strain. It's one of my favorite strains too, but I'm old school. If you ask me what I like, is a White Widow, gassy.
Yeah.
I can't deal with 30% THC. It's too much for me.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, Pink Kush doesn't hit 30%. Like we see rarely over 25% THC, but it has such a vast following of people that really enjoy that strain, enjoy that high, and it's unprecedented.
Yeah.
I even started thinking about it the other day, because Canada is the only real legal recreational market. It might be the most sold recreational legal strain in the world, if you think
Wow.
about it. And it's
Wow.
been like that since we launched it. It's been roughly 30% of our sales consistently. And
Jeez.
people come into a dispensary, they don't even know it's ours. Do you have Pink Kush? If there's no Pink Kush, they walk out of the dispensary. They don't even
It's
know
incredible.
it's Pure Sunfarms. It's just
Yeah, because I don't think there's not a lot of other producers that are doing it. Probably because you guys have cornered the market. They're just, why would we try and tread into that area when you're doing it so well? But explain that nod to legacy, because it's something I knew this right from the get-go. I think you guys got your sales license, at least for Pure Sunfarms, or maybe it was under Emerald at the time. Was it 2018? I think that's what it was.
Yeah, 2017 to 18.
Okay.
And it was the joint venture at Emerald. Emerald being, I think number 7 LP it was Thunderbird on the island. So they had connections. They already had the legacy strain. So the joint venture gave us access to the legacy genetics that we had. And they did very well over time. It's also a risk, because if the consumer one day decides, hey, Pink Kush is no longer for me.
Yeah.
We have no second Pink Kush. We have really good strains. A Kush God, for instance, and Neil Lambo, that are crosses with Pink Kush that we do ourselves, but Pink Kush is still very, very attractive and dominant for the consumer.
Wow. And then, so we'll lead into how the Canna came to be with Pure Sunfarms, but how important is it for Pure Sunfarms to support those individuals that have transitioned into the legal market, or even just, again, pay homage or respect the legacy market? Because a lot, they're like legal, everything new infused, botanical terps, this, and it's completely from where we were operating in the legacy market.
Yeah, it means everything to me. I think there's been an evolution in the industry, and there's been an evolution within the company. I think we had a lot of new consumers coming in when legalization happened, and I think it wasn't necessarily representing the cannabis that I know, the cannabis that I come from. It was more, how do I say that? It was more geared towards a different group of consumers that we actually were seeing in the market. So a lot of people felt alienated and said, hey, you know what? This is a soulless entity. They don't care about their flower. They just want to sell as much as they can.
Right.
They don't check what goes into the bag, but quality is our North Star. It's all about quality. Paying homage to the legacy, we wouldn't be there without him. And we got to respect that. We wouldn't be there without the cultivars or the strains or whatever you want to call it, or people like Carolyn, who's been doing it for years before we actually considered becoming legal. And technically,
Technically, yeah.
And
But-
then
but-
we have there's still a lot of, like a very big group of consumers that still does not want to buy legal cannabis. And I'm trying to explain to them, look, we're not what you think we are. We are actually very passionate. We hang dry everything. We manicure everything by hand. We care deeply about the product, about the consumer. We're not all for profit. The Czar is not a very profitable product. I'll explain later why that is, because I can't roll it for the life of me. That's a funny story. But it's something that I want the consumer to have access to because it's such a great product. So it means the world to me to pay homage to the people that were here before us. We're standing on the shoulders of giants. That's how I
Yeah.
see it.
Yeah. I love that, man. I love that. And you can tell, I think from our first meeting, I'd said to Wes, I'm like, yeah, his roots are deep. We've met with a lot of people. I think Wes, 64 guests over the course of like 45 weeks, right? And you get to know people, you get to read them. I mean, I've done this before, and I'm like, yeah, he's different. He's cut from a different cloth. He truly respects the legacy market, where I've been to, in those days of Ample, like I said, Pure Sunfarms, and I'm not going to mention the other ones, but some very large corporate cannabis type companies. And I'm like, yeah, it's Pure Sunfarms is just different. How did you guys get connected though? Like at what point in time? Tell me the story, because you're laughing.
I see a face on Orville.
I don't know.
Story
I don't
already.
know where this story came from, and I think I wanted to save it specifically because I wanted to be, surprised or shocked, maybe, or at least just learn about it. How did you two get connected, and then what led to? Oh, we've got to bring the Czar here. We're going to launch it under Soar. I want to understand that whole background.
It's been a long time. It really has. We've been working on this together for since legalization, really. This is what happens when you get in the right smoke circles.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
This is the kind of thing.
Okay, so where was the smoke circle?
It was at a party. and I'm trying to remember what it was, like a launch, or I don't remember. Back then there were just events.
Yeah.
There were just events,
Lots of
events.
events.
So many, and especially in Vancouver. And how do you market your product? You get it into the hands, right?
Yeah.
So I was at every event. I was there at every circle. I've had people smoke that Czar for years, and it got to the right circle, and it's this guy, and
Yeah.
he loved it.
Wow.
So
I feel you.
so I got him one, and then he became like a regular customer.
So what was it though? I mean, because the Czar, I mean, that's, you talk a joint gets passed around. Sometimes they're 1 grammer, sometimes 2, sometimes you've got the great big bamboos, but this is a slow, perfect burning pre-roll. I mean, essentially it's a pre-roll. It's a very complex one though. And we'll understand the sophistication of rolling it, because I understand you've tried your hand at it. But what was it when maybe in that joint circle you received and you're like, oh yeah, this is something we need to bring into Pure Sunfarms? What was that?
So the funniest thing was I got it when I was really fresh, right? So it was just lit, and I couldn't believe the aesthetics of it. So I started smoking it, and I didn't want to pass it along. It was like,
Freaking
Bogart.
Look at that guy.
in the Dutch we have a saying, and we always say, do you have glue in your fingers? Meaning, hey, pass the joint because it seems to be stuck.
Okay.
So I had glue on my fingers, and I kept smoking it, and I couldn't believe the high. It was so sophisticated, so smooth, and I just couldn't believe it. So I started talking to Carolyn, and she gave me different versions of it, and one was even better than the other. And then I was just smoking it on the weekend, and my wife came up to me and said, what are you smoking? I said, oh, I'm smoking these Cannazars. Do you want to try it? And she smoked it, so she couldn't believe it. And then she's very successful in her own world, and then her friends started smoking it. And then I said, okay, wait a minute. If women, early 30s, are actually smoking this and enjoying this and thinking, wow, it's the best thing we ever tried. It's not only me. And then I realized we have a winner here. This has to come to the legal side. And then it was then it all started. The misery started, because getting this past our QA department internally with the LP that I was working for back in the day, it was just impossible. They couldn't understand the concept of this.
Okay.
They were very concerned about someone ODing. True story. They were very concerned about the uniform distribution of cannabinoids within the joints, within the joint to joint, the weight differences between joint to joint. We've done it all. They wanted to cut it horizontally to test every individual part to see it was actually the exact same as, okay, why are you cutting it horizontally and not vertically? Because you're smoking vertically, you're not smoking.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense what you're doing. Then apparently I shouldn't have an opinion about those things. It was very, very complicated to get this online. I always make the joke, I had to become president of a company to push this through. And say, okay,
It's so true. It's so true.
I am president of Pure Sunfarms only to bring in the Canna Czar. But Carolyn, did you know Orville and his role with Pure Sunfarms in like when that joint was getting passed around?
Well, no, he was at a different LP.
Oh, okay,
And,
okay.
So yeah, we've been through a couple of trials. I'm going to say this is our third time, really, but this is it.
So
This
it's
is
been
the
in
charm.
motion, obviously, and this would
Yes.
have been so Emerald Days. Then I'm assuming is that right, Orville? Yeah,
That's right.
So
And
and I
this was-
understand QA. QA's we live and die by their swords in some cases, right?
Orville's giving me the Costco CEO vibes, where he was like, "If you guys increase the price of the hot dog from $1.50, I'm going to kill you all."
I'm out.
And Orville's like, "The Canna Czar is going on. I'm president now. This is happening."
They're here for the hot dogs, you guys. They're here for the hot dogs.
No, this is a true story, right? So I'm at Emerald, I can't get it through. And we have so much data. We spend $100,000 just in collecting data, with testing, and I can't get it through the organization. It just won't fly. So obviously the joint venture with Pure Sunfarms, and me being very close with the previous president of our Pure Sunfarms, said, Mandish, you have to look at this. It's a great product. Maybe you can get it on the market. I can't. He can get it done either. Because also with the same problem that I have at Emerald. And now at this point, I'm starting to feel really guilty towards Carolyn, because we're 5 years in of trying to get this thing to market. And then finally, December 19, it shipped for the first time from Pure Sunfarms to BC, and it sold out. I think we sold out half of the master cases in 45 minutes.
Wow.
But it's 6 years of actually trying this, and people of the legacy market don't necessarily understand that the regulatory burden that we deal with is quite complex.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to navigate. Health Canada, obviously, I have nothing but good things to say about them. But they're not the most
This is
progressive.
Legacies podcast. We bash them all the time. No,
I can't.
They do their job.
no, I know they do their jobs. We love you, Health Canada. All of us.
Health Canada. But they're not the most progressive organization that I have ever seen. I have
Right.
some funny stories to share, but we'll save that for a different podcast. And it was so complicated. So 5 or 6 years before this product actually came to be. And it's still, if I still smoke it, and I smoke it quite a bit, it's still one of the best products that is on the market, hands down. And it's not cheap, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's $50 retail roughly, and I want to make sure that the consumer gets the best product they can find.
Right. So what is that decision then? Because obviously the economics are much different than putting out a bag of, a 3.5 gram, a 7 gram, a 28 gram SKU, or a pre-roll. By the way, I'm loving the Pennywise. It took a bit at first, and I'm like, because I'm in the big, CBD 1-to-1s now, and the Pennywise, just the high is incredible. Like it's a perfect high. Anyways, enough about that.
Very underrated.
It's-
It's very
it-
underrated strain.
I would say like it's, yeah, I enjoy it quite often. It's my go-to right now. Anyways, so the economics behind bringing the Canna Czar and bringing it to market, because you're right, consumers don't necessarily understand this. Where I shock someone, I'm at my local market, I'm getting some steaks, I turn around and some people I haven't seen, they're like, "Oh, are you still in real estate?" I'm like, "Bro, that was like 10 years ago." No, but I'm doing this now, and they're like, "Oh, as soon as people find out, you're in cannabis, what's going on? What are the challenges?" I said, the thing I always go to every time now is the only thing that consumers need to understand outside of all the regulatory burden that you had just mentioned is approximately 70% of every dollar spent is going to taxes. And they were just dumbfounded, right? But you're right, they're not necessarily understanding the amount of work and effort it takes just to even bring a new product to market, let alone supporting all of the flour and the pre-rolls and everything else you're doing. So what was the decision? Was it, we need at all costs just to get this product to market, whether that was tribute to Carolyn and all the work over 5-6 years, or was it everyone needs this because it's the Canna Czar. Everyone needs to enjoy this because if you are a CPA type sitting at the helm of a company like a Pure Sunfarms, you're not going to necessarily look at it and go, yeah, this is our moneymaker. There's just no way. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's no way.
No, it's a combination of things again. First, my guilt towards Carolyn of not making us a friend. I had to fix that.
I'll take it.
In all seriousness, it's twofold, right? It's not going to be the money maker. I do believe that consumers have to experience this. They have the right to what's on the black market, to come out of the shade and come into the light. And I hope that the consumer that tries it says, wow, that's a really good product. Is this Pure Sunfarms? I thought that company was very different.
Right.
I want them to see it for what we really are. I want them to understand we are not this faceless entity. We are very passionate and we care deeply about what we do, and we care deeply about the quality that we provide to our consumers. We take this very, very serious. Village Farms, the owner of Pure Sunfarms, has been doing large agriculture for 30 years.
Yeah.
It's very, very complicated doing this at scale. We are one of the successful ones, and we're up to date with the excise tax. And yeah, we pay a lot of taxes. We paid roughly 120 million last year.
Jeez.
We paid 3.2 million Health Canada fees, just a regulatory fee. So we pay a lot of taxes. And this is not an easy business to be in. It really isn't. So I'm hoping, that's my deep hope, that people that are currently not looking at our flour, not looking at our other products, say, hey, you know what? I'm going to give this a try. Maybe they're not what I think they were.
Right. Well, I think it's one thing for consumers to at least look at Pure Sunfarms because of the Canna Czar, but it's the market in general, right? Because depending on, I don't go into them that much. Wes has kind of off-limited me when it comes to, the subreddits and Reddit in general, but because I can get down a rabbit hole, right? Oh, they're bashing this product. Why? But you hear it all the time, right? Especially those legacy folks that are still, consuming legacy product. They just straight up think that the regulated products are garbage. And every conversation I have, I'm like, you don't get it. You don't know. Like, some of the best products I've ever consumed, and again, 33 plus years of this, have come from the regulated market. And part of that is due to innovation. Part of it is due to just the strict quality control. There's a lot around it. But so, yeah, while it bolsters Pure Sunfarms to say, yeah, we put a nod towards the legacy market, I think it's doing service to the regulated market in general to say there is a place for these legacy products. They need to be in the regulated market as well if they're done correctly. So I respect that. I think that makes a lot of sense. But Carolyn, so finally, Orville comes in now. Because I think you were doing international biz dev at the time, right? And you came back into Pure Sunfarms and then COO. Now you're president. Was that kind of green light, reconnect, Carolyn, text, hey, I just assumed the role. Let's get this off and running. Like, what was that process? Like, because that couldn't have been, one, it would have been exciting, obviously. But now you've got to go through the trial and error of, okay, how do we do this at air quote scale? Because it's not at scale if you're doing it in 10 minutes, right? 10 minutes per.
No, literally once I became president and I called Carolyn the week after. Carolyn,
wow,
we're going to do this now. I have enough. This product is going to hit the market. And then, believe me, and Carolyn knows better than I did, we started all over again and started redoing everything again. So, because now you have to make it at scale, which is very, very complicated. So the whole engineering team started to redesign an already perfect formula. So we lost about 6-7 months, I would say, there as well. Too much distillate. A bigger snake, because it's easier to roll a bigger snake of shatter, obviously. You have to. My hands don't work. They're like a shovel.
Like a shovel.
But when you put too much distillate on it, like it's like a chimney. Everything is black. He can't smoke.
Yeah.
So all the proportions were off again, and I at some point I had enough, and I went back to the engineering team and the branding team. Hey, whatever Carolyn says is what we're going to do now.
Yeah.
So you figure out how to get that at scale, but that's the decision. She has done it for so long. She knows exactly what the right proportions are. You don't need to reinvent the wheel because you will not be able to figure it out regardless.
Yeah.
But the initial PO that we got from the BC board was 1,300. We made 2,000 and we destroyed 700 of them because they just weren't good enough. So are we making
There's
money?
a learning curve.
Wait, hold on.
There's a curve.
There's a board of directors of your Sunfarms, right?
And then they're sitting there and I go, God, 700?
Yeah.
And then
But we couldn't. They
Right.
had to be perfect.
They had to be perfect, right?
And
But
it
I
goes
mean,
just- it
your
goes back to that.
involvement right at the beginning, it would have been there, right, Carolyn? But are they trying to reverse engineer it so they can do it at scale? Like what was the major complication? Was it getting the ratios correct? Like what?
There was actually a potency issue,
Okay.
and whether it was potent enough, honestly.
Okay.
And there was a push for to hit a certain number for potency, and it took Orville pushing back to finally say, I didn't have one person ask me what the potency of the Canna was back in the day.
Right.
Was not the issue. It didn't have to hit 38 or 40 or whatever the number is. This random number. You can only get so high, people. Like,
Right.
So-
someone has to say it. Like you can only get so high. I mean, there are
Right.
green out times where you're questioning life and am I going to live? But no one's died, right?
That's more edibles.
I've had to talk myself down. Orville knows, and I'm sure you know as well, Carolyn, where there's been points in time where I'm like, okay, no one's ever died from cannabis. No one's ever died from cannabis. I'm going to be just fine, right? But, and when you're talking potency, again, going back to those legacy days, yeah, some was tested, but we weren't asking like, what's the potency of this flower I'm about to purchase? It was bag appeal, smell, a little taste test. Good. I'm good to go. Not, oh, if it's not 28 plus or 30 plus %, I don't want it. We didn't do that.
no, but it was so Carolyn's absolutely right. They wanted the potency to be even higher than what it is, and it's a really good product in its current form. And so I said to my sales director, who was finding for higher potency, okay, you know what? We're going to get one right now. We'll smoke it. If you finish it in one sitting, I'll increase the potency. If you don't, you're just going to follow the recipe as is.
Yeah. And what was the outcome?
We
What
follow
was-
the recipe as is.
Yeah. So what does the potency weigh in at on that?
I think it's 38%, but it's over 2 grams. So
Right.
it comes in the whole
Yeah,
product.
2.1 grams. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the whole product is somewhere around 730.
Okay.
Yeah.
And sitting and consuming an entire one. But okay, so potency was part of the factor. But I mean, we're talking about you're rolling out the twax or the shatter, and then you've got to get it in the center. And what is the wrap? Is it a chamomile? What type of wrap are you using? Or
No, it's just a hemp, an organic hemp blend wrap.
okay. So and then the flour, obviously produced by Pure Sunfarms. What can you say? What flour goes into it, or do you? Yeah.
Yeah. It's chemtrail.
Oh, chemtrail. Okay.
Yeah,
Is that
so,
a ChemDog spinoff?
Yes.
Is it okay? ChemDog.
Yes.
I know
Yeah.
some OG stuff. Yeah.
Exactly.
I love that one.
But when I was making
you and I
the
are the same age, Tom. Pennywise, Dog. I think we're very close
ChemDog,
in age.
White Widow, Northern Lights, like Master Kush. Yeah.
separated at birth.
Yeah. Okay. So, but what were the other complications? Because I'm an efficiency guy, right? I come from manufacture, and Six Sigma was the talk of the town in those days. And you're getting your ISO certifications and all this stuff back. Oh God, I don't want to date myself, but 25 plus years ago. I would look at that and go, there's no efficient way to do this. It's got to be done by hand. If we can get to 15 minutes, great. 10 minutes, great. But I would still be pushing, going, guys, we got to get this out quicker. That doesn't sound like it becomes a problem. What were the other issues of mastering at scale? Again, I say at scale, but if you're putting out this number and it takes 10 minutes to create one or craft one, it's still very much legacy type, crafting.
Yes. If someone produces 60 a day, it's a good day.
Wow. Okay.
So I don't know if you've seen the product, but we actually have a little sticker of who
Oh, yeah.
made your Canna.
Yeah.
So you're going to know that they took their time. They took 10 minutes out of their day
Yeah.
to make sure that you're going to have a good experience with this.
Yeah.
So I think that's all just part of the warmth of the Canna, and like the soul of it is that it's, it doesn't say a robot made this. It doesn't
Yeah.
say
So
this
who
bump
wrote
bot's
the
made it or
SOP?
future roller.
I would have to assume you wrote the SOP for this.
I did at some point, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've changed a lot. So Pearson is actually they've been the best partner because actually the day that Orville called me, I'd recovered from the last attempt and
Right.
I was just ready. I'd just actually been to another facility that an hour before.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yes, and it was close to my house, and they had time, and they're like, "Yes, we want to do it with you. Let's go. We'll put you in the schedule for next month." And I was like, "Yes, I'm gonna fund it myself. I'm gonna do it." Um, and then they'd asked a few things. They're like, "So you were trying to do this with Pure Sunfarms?" And I was like, "Yeah, I was with this guy Orville." And I'm gonna say 45 minutes later, I hadn't talked to him in over 7 months. And he's like, "Guess what? You're never gonna believe it."
Yeah. Wild.
And so it was the easiest decision. Like even just to go through the history that we've had. Like when we were at Emerald, one of the very first things that we had to do was you couldn't combine a category. So you couldn't have
Right.
concentrates in your flowers. So like just there, it's like, whoa, that's exactly what this is. So we spent almost 6 months trying to figure out how to make a flower concentrate
Mm-hmm.
that was within the guidelines.
Right. Right.
Also, Emerald was a little bit more of a pharmaceutical background, the QA
Mm-hmm.
team.
Yeah.
And Orville has actually brought some of them along over to Pearson. And the change is we used to kind of fight QA, and now they're problem solving with us.
Nice. That's
And I
good.
think that that's just testament to Orville and what he's doing. Like this is really super important to him to bring these products over. Canazar's the first, and I hope it's not the last
Mm-hmm.
because they can do it. And we were talking about the cost of it, and really street cred, priceless, right?
Yeah. Yeah. For
And
sure.
that's kind
For sure.
of and that's what Orville is. And once people start to talk to him a little bit more and see just like he bleeds green, from 13 years old,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So when you start hearing that he's the person in charge of this, and like just the respect level goes up immediately, like, oh, he's not Lululemon.
Yeah.
He's literally the weed guy. He
Yeah.
built this place. He's the one
Right.
that converted it. So
Yeah. That's
it's
awesome.
just the easiest thing to I'd follow him anywhere. Orville, I'd follow you anywhere.
Yeah, so Tom, going back to your question, right? Carolyn has done a phenomenal job in automating things that we could automate, but a lot of this will always be done by hand. There's no other way. There's no machine that can do this. I was in Vegas looking at some of the machines that actually dip a joint into distillate or whatever, and then automatically keef it and put keef on top. And I think, wow, you solved a problem that isn't really a problem to begin with, because there's much better ways of doing this. But she has engineered certain things that, like for instance, how to bring the shatter in. You pull the joint up, and there's a little, I do a terrible way of explaining this. There's a little rod standing on the table, and a joint is standing on the rod, and you lift the rod, and then you drop the shatter in.
Wow.
So everything that can be automated is automated to such an extent. But certain things of applying it, like the very limited distillate on the outside, we tried spraying it, didn't work. We tried dipping it. That was a really bad idea. And now it's like with a spatula, like a very light amount. And yeah, it's our own keef, because when I sneeze in the building, I sneeze keef. It's self-retrieve.
What is
Yeah, I spell it right now. Give me a little
That's
loud.
the
There's
open-
a lot of cannabis
that's
in
the
that
opening clip.
facility.
That's the opening clip. I got it.
sneeze Keef.
No, so, but you have like very, very talented people, and certain people didn't make the cut. I didn't make the cut. I can't make them. They apply the keef on it, and it's all, those certain things. I feel most comfortable at doing this by hand. Even when we go back to our quality, when I said the importance to our quality, we have machines that package flour.
Mm-hmm.
We shut the machines down for
Wow.
90% of the time, because what I figured, people actually breaking the flour apart to feed the machine so the machine could run properly, because flour isn't even. I said, yeah, but not breaking flower apart. That's a capital sin here.
Oh
If I see-
yeah, that's what.
If I see you do that, you got a real
Period.
problem.
Yeah, I'm glad you're not. Oh my God, that's crazy.
And so certain things are just not to be automated. It is passion by hand. It is you have to do it by hand. You have to feel the joint when you tamp and make sure that it has the right compaction for the smokability.
Yeah.
I want people to feel the joint. When we make our pre-rolls, like a regular pre-rolls, obviously we use a machine for those. I want people squeezing the joints. I want people to dry pull the joints, see if the airflow is appropriate, because it's a quality product. I care deeply about this. So it's a very different approach. I don't ever see this fully being automated. The only thing that I would love to automate, but I'm not there yet, is the production of the shatter snake, because that's hell on earth. Like I can't
Tedious.
I can't get it done. It is so
And
difficult.
so is that hand rolled out? Like it is. Wow.
Yeah.
But I mean, when
we weigh out the amount of shatter, then you put it on the hot plate and you roll it out. I'm going to say 30 seconds to get, it has to be the
so not too
exact
long, because
right
then you're
height.
going to start to decarb it, and there's got to be a lot of
Well,
things
and
going
it
on
peaks out. Like it's the thing about the Canna Czar is you can smoke that thing from start to finish.
Yeah.
You should end with a empty bamboo tip. There should be nothing left in it. And it's because the shatter's the right length. It doesn't go too deep. It doesn't go too high. It's kind of built like a tie stick. I don't know if you know
Yeah.
anything about. Yeah.
Oh, I know a
So-
little bit about a tie stick.
Yeah. Okay. So those are the two. Like the tools that I designed were all based kind of on tie sticks. So
Right.
yeah, but
Okay.
there's just so many components to it. Like
Yeah. But I mean, when you think about some of the best quality items just in general in the world, they're typically handcrafted, right? There's a lot of hand craftsmanship in a Rolex. I'm not wearing a Rolex, but the finest things in the world are still handmade, right? So I mean, I think that's a testament to what Pure Sunfarms. But Soar as a brand under Pure Sunfarms, what are the different brands right now? Remind me again, Orville.
So we have Fraser Valley,
Right.
we have Pure Sunfarms, we have Soar, and then we have Super Toast.
Super Toast, right? Yeah.
Yeah, very different offerings. Super Toast is for the younger consumer. It's bright yellow. We call it the grab and go category. Then we have Fraser Valley, which is our bulk sales, our lower priced, less premium flower than our Pure Sunfarms, which is our mainstream. And then we have Soar, which is our ultra premium, and where we place our ultra premium products like the Canna Czar.
Right. Okay. So not necessarily, I mean, because Pure Sunfarms as a company is very much reminiscent to the legacy market, but each brand isn't necessarily divided out. So Soar isn't, we're going to focus on legacy type products. But when you talk about first of hopefully many, what are some of the other legacy products? I mean, is there a cross joint on the market yet as a pre-roll? I don't think there's any of those, but what other products would you like to see, or ones that you respected from the legacy market that could potentially come in?
Yeah, I'm very passionate about hash. And to be quite honest, I think the hash that's available right now on the market, it's not the hash I would consume. I think we have a lot of ideas, and I can't say too much. But there is a version with the Canna Czars and hash as well. And obviously, we're still using normal paper right now. I would love to replace that at some point with a different kind of paper made out of something completely different.
Yeah.
So we're doing a lot of experimenting with hash at the moment. I believe there's a market for it. Now my whole sales team is shaking their head and saying, no, there isn't, but I'm a stubborn man. Wouldn't choose, wouldn't listen, as they say about the Dutch. So I'm very passionate about hash. And we had some great products and some great ideas. Then obviously next year, I'm not oblivious to it. Look, you have the place for the distillate vapes. I'm not the biggest fan. I get kind of, I call it almost a dirty high compared to a different kind of high. But you see an evolution in the vape consumer as well. So the distillate user, they move into the live resin or live rosin. So we're looking at that as well, and that'll be coming out early next year. Phenomenal product, high quality, and that will be in its own separate category again. So we got some exciting things coming. And obviously, if there's a product that I can't think of, and we visit the US quite a bit to see what's happening there, I'm always open to learn and to listen and to try new things that I have never considered, I have never seen. I don't know everything. So if there's a product on the legacy market that is not there, or that I'm not aware of, I would love to introduce that. Absolutely, always open to collaborations with people that are on the legacy side and saying, hey, you guys are not seeing this.
Yeah, that's very cool. I think that the one that kind of shocked me when they came out was the moon rocks. You remember moon rocks way back in the legacy days? I'm like, why the hell do they need to do that to the bud? Like what? But then you get it, and it's like, wow, okay, I see why they did this. So I think that, for Pure Sunfarms, obviously paying respect to the legacy market, there's more work to be done, right? Which makes a lot of sense. And, I talked about the moon rocks and, but what's, forward looking, are you using data to understand it? I've joked with Wes before and some of our other guests is, we're deep rooted in cannabis. So, the legacy strains or cultivars, but there's this big shift, right? Where I'm not the distillate, you called it a dirty high, I think, Orville. For me, this is kind of the way I look at it when it comes to those vapes. But I'm concerned with the future generations where they're infused pre-rolls with botanical terps and, the OG legacy type products are kind of left in the background, or maybe they become craft. If you think, in a liquor store, potentially they're your vintage wines. I don't know. What is Pure Sunfarms doing to ensure that there is that legacy moving forward? Is it the Canna Czar type products, or is it just continuing to establish yourself? How do you see that? You see what my issue is, right? Is 10 years, 20 years, 30 years into the future, are we going to be destined to only see infused products with botanical terps that they're hiding their shitty flower with? Like, I don't know.
So I've been working on that for quite a bit. I have the same fear. It's also something that we gotta accept. It's called evolution, right? So the consumer evolves. I'm hoping that we're going full circle, and at some point that the consumer is coming back to flower as the base for everything, and they start to appreciate flower again. What really needs to happen there is that there needs to be a change with the regulator. For instance, the first thing we should start with is losing the 27.86% THC. The consumer is not looking for that in the packaging. Provide a range. This product will give you 24 to 28, and just making up the range. It gives you the options, and as the dispensary, as the retailer, and to a certain extent as the LP, to actually talk about different components of what you're consuming instead of just THC.
Right.
That really needs to happen. Now, I've been talking to Health Canada for a while, but talking to the boards. The boards are very much aligned, but ultimately it's a regulating decision. The regulator has to make a decision. If they allow for that, it will make my operational production so much easier, because I can start pre-printing labels for a very simple thing, which saves me a lot of money. But that's the first step, because the consumer comes into a dispensary right now, and the first thing they look at is THC.
Right.
Now, the boards, and I meet with them quite a bit, are just as much as a challenge. If I tell the boards, hey, I have this amazing strain called Pennywise, would you like to buy it? Said, no, we're not interested, because it doesn't sell. There's no sell-through, the consumer is not buying it. So we're very limited in bringing certain of these products to market, because we cannot really educate the consumer right now. We really need to change there from a regulatory perspective for these products to survive. And that's the sad truth.
Yeah. Yeah. Carolyn, with your extensive work at dispensaries, pre-legalization, was it regulation? What's caused this race to potency levels? Because again, we weren't asking these questions necessarily. I don't think, again, I wasn't in, Legacy Day dispensary. Where did the shift come from? Was it just because it's now available? I mean, really, what I'd love to see is manufactured, packaged on, or repackaged on in some cases, right? I'd love to see those dates very prominent. But where did this come from?
It's pretty new, in my opinion. Even in the early days of legalization, it wasn't such a huge topic. Like, you can't bring a product to the BC board that's under 28% or something right now. They're not even looking at it.
What?
And that's like, if we can't educate the people that are doing the purchasing for all of BC, then how are we going to educate the consumer? It
Wow.
really needs to start at the top. And I think it was just, there's so few numbers, you know, there's THC. So what's the number? And
Hmm.
people just want the biggest, best, next, highest, everything. It's just kind of, I think that's just the nature of people,
Yeah.
is looking for the next best. And unfortunately, they're not really looking. I think some people are starting to understand like terpenes,
Yeah.
and something that we like to talk about with the Canna Czar is like the entourage effect and understanding the different highs.
Yeah.
And I think that the first thing that people should be asking when they come into a dispensary is, how do you want to get high today? And
Hmm.
and what kind of high do you want to have today? Like, what
Right.
do you need to do? Do you need to clean? Do you need to chill? Are you looking at pain? What is it?
Hmm.
And that's not the question that people are coming in
Yeah, I
and,
typically get, "What are you in for today?"
Mhm.
And yeah, again, it's I've been around the product since inception, legalization, joined Ample early days. Pure Sunfarms was a client of ours. Um, and I go in and I'm just like, so they ask me a question and I'm like, you shouldn't have asked me a question. I don't know what I want now, unless I'm going in with a specific purpose or know the product I want. But I would love to see more information available. And I think that you're right, Orville, it comes from education, right? But it has to start at the policymaker level where, there's Cannabis Standards Alliance and all of this is happening great, but we're not going to get there quick enough until we can shift that conversation, I think, at that retail level, which is, as you had said. Now, again, God forbid we say anything about wellness at a dispensary. Oh, God, it's so bad. But I think that some major changes need to take place in order for us to do that. I don't know if it will happen soon. We've talked reform and now we've got elections and all this craziness happening. So God knows where that's going to land. But
I think that with everything, it kind of swings hard in one direction and it'll center back. Like, I
mhm.
think that's human nature. People realize I got this 41%, whatever it is, and it didn't get me any higher than the 22%. And
Right.
then they'll be like, so why am I paying for that? Or why? And
Yeah.
instead of people start questioning it. And I think it'll swing back.
Well, a tough economy
That's my
doesn't
hope.
help, right? Like, when you've got individuals, let's call them 20 somethings, not a lot of disposable income in some cases, they want best bang for their buck. So they may purchase a high potency flower because they could potentially use less. I could see it from that angle. But outside of, I want to get as high as I can, like, you can only get so high. Like you said, you can only get so high. But, Orville, what were you going to say?
I have some, well, I love my friends at Health Canada, but we had an audit recently that they went back 2 years to look at our Facebook account, and they had, for instance, a comment of a bike in the greenhouse and said, hey, you can't advertise that, that's lifestyle. No, that's actually how we get around here because that's how big this greenhouse is. If your regulator is doing inspections like that, I have so many examples. Tom, life becomes very, very challenging if we try to educate the consumer, but I could not explain the inspector how we made kief. They just didn't understand the difference between trim and kief.
Oh my
So
God.
you show me SOP and how you make kiefs. Look, you're looking at it right now. This is what we're doing. Just couldn't understand it. So
Jeez.
So he
if
sneezed,
Yeah.
and then he was like, look,
See, this is Keith.
kief all
Yeah.
over the inspector, no, but if your inspector is still at that level, then it becomes really, really tough to educate the consumer because now we're in a very different world. We live
Right.
in very different worlds. If your inspector goes to your Facebook account and says, hey, you can't use an image of a cherry, and I think that cherry is too red. And I said, okay, how red is too red?
Yeah. Jeez.
And this is the regulator coming and occupying your head of QA, your head of sales, your head of branding for an entire day, just going over Facebook images of 2 years ago.
I had no idea. Now I do know that they monitor. Typically it's on a complaint that they'll go in without doing anything. But when they're doing audits, I had no idea that they were looking at any of your socials and marketing. And that's, I think, for us, because again, we've, Legacies and what we've done with High Flyer Media is it's there to support the companies like Pure Sunfarms and others that we think it's BS, right? Like we know that when you apply for the license, very familiar with the regulations. I had to sleep with them. We were compliance at Ample. So, the fact that when you apply for a license, you have to submit a business plan A, and any business plan A includes a marketing plan. drives me insane because you can't really do that much. You can get creative, but for them to come back and say, because I do remember the bicycles, by the way, but to come back and be like, that's lifestyle. Seriously? Like, go deal with some bigger issues.
And so definitely, it's sometimes it's very, very frustrating.
How do you keep your composure is the question.
But it's also
Lots of weed.
So normally this is a true story. I write a C on my hand, and the C stands for calm.
Yeah.
So I look at my hands quite a bit, and then, okay, you got to stay calm. You got to stay calm. That's normally what I do, but it's very, very challenging. Very challenging.
I bet. Well, listen, guys, it's been a great, I don't know, hour or so. We want to continue the conversation. We'll figure this out, learn more about what Pure Sunfarms is doing. And, Carolyn, obviously we love you. The fact that, the Canna Czar now exists by way of Pure Sunfarms and under Soar, that's incredible. Because I didn't realize how much challenge there would be. But when you talk back, trying to bring it to market under Emerald, the difficulties, the challenges, QA, no slice it horizontal versus vertical. I mean, I think I'd asked you that. Like, how do you go about even testing something like this? But, obviously there's challenges, but we think it's a testament to what you guys are doing and what Pure Sunfarms stands for, and the fact that you're willing to take that risk, because it is a risk. I mean, let's face it, at the end of the day, it's a risk, regardless of the name, the Canna Czar, which is the best title in the world. Almost as good as the Wizard, maybe. Wizard's almost as good as Canna Czar, but anyways. We just love the work that you're doing. It seems like you've got your blinders on and are smart enough to be forward thinking and say, we don't care what other companies are doing. We are Pure Sunfarms. We're paying homage to the legacy market, and that we can get behind. We appreciate you joining us. It's been an awesome time.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. The biggest challenge that we face right now, we pitched it to the OCS and we pitched it to AGLC. And the OCS came back with such a number that we can't produce. So at the moment, we're rolling as we speak.
We'll take 10,000. Say what? We can deliver
That's
2020.
it.
Really?
That's what they said.
We'll take, well, we can deliver those in 2027. Can we give you a week for the next,
So no, we're rolling as we speak. And at some point, we're going to do it so well that we don't have to destroy 50% of what we make.
Yeah. That's a nightmare, man. I couldn't imagine. Again, that's why, Wes, I don't think Pure Sunfarms has a board of directors, because they'd be all over.
I hope you just don't listen to this podcast.
Yeah. Well, we'll get all their names. Wes will put up some blocking so that they can't come in and view it. But listen, guys, we appreciate you. We appreciate everything you're doing. And thanks so much for joining Legacies.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. I hope you guys come out. I know I talked to Danielle about it. I approved it of coming out. I'm very much looking forward to that. There's so much to talk about. There's so many interesting people to meet.
Yeah, when you talk about legacies, there's so many legacy people here.
Yeah.
Right?
No,
Also,
it's
we have
awesome.
a very
Growers.
strong science side, right? But actually PhD studying the plant deeply. So we can show you studies of the variability of THC in the plants. It is impossible to come on the exact number. The plant doesn't produce an exact number.
Yeah.
So there's so much to talk about, as we talked about last time. I hope you guys come out. I truly do.
We'll figure it out. We'll make it happen. We appreciate you guys, though. Well, what do you think, Wes?
I think he's definitely a lot different. I think I think it's right. Again, we've said it before, but the whole fuck corporate cannabis thing. Again, we see where some people are coming from, but I don't think it applies to everyone. I don't think.
We need to get specific, right?
Yeah, you got to have your definitions for that. It's,
yeah. Hey, I get it. Even outside of cannabis, like I'm not the biggest Walmart fan. Sorry, people that enjoy Walmart. I know the way these larger companies negotiate, and I that's why I'd said to you, and we'd met with them. I think it was Danielle that had reached out, and she's like, "Hey, would you be interested in having Orville and Carolyn on?" And then she told us about the Canna Czar, and I'm like, "Oh, that's really cool." And I'm like, "Wait a second, do you remember?" I said, "I'm like, Pure Sunfarms is going to launch this product." And then the more I got into it and understood, I think under Orville's leadership now as president, he's able to do what he's envisioned over the years, right? And bringing this, because at the end of the day, there's no way that it's a super profitable product. But again, it's paying homage to the legacy market and Carolyn's story of EA. She worked at EA.
Yeah, she probably worked on those old sim games and FIFA 2001 and that shit. Those are my old PS1 games. Yeah,
man, that'd be cool. That'd be cool. I've always thought about that industry, when we dabbled in tech, but
the gaming industry.
Yeah, just I don't know. Wasn't there?
They're going through the gaming industry is going through a pretty big upheaval at the moment. They're having their own moment of anti kind of corporate, like big companies like Ubisoft, right? These were the big guys that produce massive AAA titles like Assassin's Creed and these huge games.
So what's the problem?
The problem now is a lot of them are like there's some of these big AAA games are getting released with, big bugs, really shitty performance, and they're all getting patched and updated after the fact, and customers are just feeling like game prices are higher than ever. They're like $80-$90 for a game now, and they're turning more to these indie titles.
So are they looking at that, like, are these bigger companies going, fuck it, ship it?
Yeah, kind of a fucking ship it attitude. There's also I hate to use the word, but there's a woke element to them now too.
Oh, you can use that all you want.
Some of these companies are throwing in, like, really ramming in some of these topics and some of these these categories of discussions into these games, and gamers are just having none of it. So Ubisoft is about to go bankrupt because of their last 3 titles.
What?
Yeah, people have had enough. It's
well, while we're talking gaming, so here's a really fun fact for you. I did not know this. So Atari, you probably never played Atari.
I've played Atari.
Okay. Yeah. I don't mean the retro redo versions. I mean
no.
Atari,
I mean the originals.
Like pull it out, and so Atari originally, the game creators, when they were working as a whole unit company, those individuals left. They realized, so the software engineers that were with them at the time, they left and created Activision. Okay.
Right.
And Activision, they saw the money was in games. It was in the software, it was in the games. So this is what we're going to do. And we're just making Atari a ton of money. Let them make the hardware. We'll leave and we'll make the games, the software. Was it software then? I guess you could still call it software in a way. And Atari tried to sue them. So rather than getting, just an uproar over it, they figured out a way to work together. And Activision came back and said, well, hold on, there's so much money, because this is early days, right? Atari's taking off, Activision, all these games are taking off. They said, what if we just give you a cut of the sales? And Atari's like, so we don't have to do anything? They're like, nope, we'll continue to make games for you guys, and you get a cut. They're like, okay, no problem, we'll take it. That's pretty fucking cool. I thought that was really cool. I'm like, why we don't work like that anymore? Like, things are so different now, man.
Well, it's funny you mentioned the Atari and stuff, because they're one of they have one of the worst records for a game coming to market as a piece of shit on the market. I don't know if you remember the old E.T. game.
E.T., yeah.
That E.T. game there was millions of copies of that Atari ended up having to put in the landfill because of how shit that launch was.
Really?
You should look up that's a story of how not to do consumers. That's
interesting.
A really good one. Yeah, there's still millions of copies out there in landfills.
Well, fuck it, ship it still goes on, man. I know that. Who said that? Was it? So move fast and break things is Zuckerberg, which
I don't know, but I've heard a lot of DevOps engineers say that YOLO right to production.
That's not right. Yeah, and Juul. Oh, it was Juul. It was Juul. The vapes.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. It was. They knew like 60% of them were leaking. They're like, fuck it, ship it, because they knew that they had the consumer for it. Anyways, it's great to chat with Orville and Carolyn. Much success there. I think we're gonna get out there. We'll figure it out. You haven't seen that facility?
No. I've seen pictures. I've seen pictures. I haven't actually been there.
Dude, it's huge. It's mesmerizing, really. And I remember even Leamington area, we had a customer coming on once upon a time. I think it was around 2018, 19. They were still growing peppers at the time, and they were converting to cannabis. And I went in and I was like, holy smokes, this is huge. And then
that facility I've been to.
And then a year later, I was in Pure Sunfarms, and I'm like, oh my God. But again, growers' worst nightmare is a spider mite, right? And I'm like, how the hell do you control this? And as Orville had said, it keeps me up at night. Yeah. as it should. Anyways, your IPM's got to be on point for that. So we appreciate everyone. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next week on Legacies.